What's up, guys? Alright, we're going to go over bowdrill fire making today, and I'm going to show you the components you need, the materials, and give you some tips on the best way to do this. And you can see a little piece of cotton right there. That's from cottonwood tree, which is all around me here. So you want to first preferably use something like cottonwood. You can use cedar too, but cottonwood's really plentiful and abundant. You can find it around water a lot of times. Look for cotton on the ground. It's got really thick, rigid bark, distinctive leaves. So just stand under the tree and look for dead limbs that have fallen down. Okay, and you want to at least make your spindle and hearthboard out of the same material. So like I said, in this case I chose cottonwood. Your bow doesn't have to be, because it doesn't really matter what type of wood it is, it just matters the shape. I like my bow a little more accentuated so I can have a better handle when I'm not just kind of holding a very subtle bow going this way. I can actually have more of a handle on it. But it doesn't even have to be that bowed. And you can even use a smaller one, but this is just a good sturdy bow. You know it's not going to break under pressure. And I used 550 cord as a string. Now you want it really loose. You can see how loose that is. And then you tie it fixed on one end. I actually put grooves with the saw so that string really bites in, or the cord. And then this end, I make it adjustable to where you just wrap it around a bunch. You just kind of tie it off loosely. And then when you grab it, you can grab it like this. And you can control the tension by squeezing on the slack part, like that. But you'll probably want to tweak it your first couple times and get it to where it's not too tight or too loose. Retie it, and then you'll know it's right in that optimum range, which will allow you to then tweak it with your fingers and adjust the pressure. Okay, our hearthboard, this was actually batoned from about a 3-4 inch thick piece limb, and I batoned it down each side and cut about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch section. Planed it out with my knife, shaved it as flat as possible. Okay, then what I did, took a Tonto tip, dig that second edge, the Tonto part, into the center, going all the way around. And that gets a divot started. Then you load your drill up, which I'll show you how to do. Get it going. And you at least want to go that far to where you have a nice ring around there, so you know that it's going to fit good. Because it's important that you get this drill bit seated, or the spindle seated, so it doesn't pop out. So that's what you want it to look like really before you start to actually try to get a fire. That's what it'll look like after you've done it. Once you get your hole going, then you can take a saw, folding saw, Swiss Army, and you just cut in a little triangle. Generally, so it's just kind of barely going into the edge of the hole, the divot. You kind of want to do it at an angle. So if I can show this, instead of going like straight in, you kind of angle it out like that. So instead of like this, like that. So it's wider on the bottom so all that ash can fall through. Then once you get a decent triangle cut, you can pop out the insides and then use your knife and just kind of cut so that you get in about 1/3 of the way into the circle. You'll know you did that right when this thing can rotate and it doesn't just slide out and there's clearly part of that circle that's cut out so that hot ash can fall through, or hot embers. And as you can see on a piece like this, you could probably do 8 or 10 divots, something like that. And you can reuse the same one multiple times as well. Now, like I said, both of these were cut from cottonwood. So cottonwood on cottonwood is a really good combination. Now our spindle, this thing's about 1 foot long. Some important things to consider on your spindle is that you don't want it to be round. You want it to be as straight as possible. This one is pretty straight. You look down that, it's pretty straight. Slight little bend, but it kind of evens itself out. Now the tip, which will be the top end, should be pointed. You don't necessarily want to come to a complete point, like a sharp point, because that can stick into whatever you're putting it in, your mantle, or I'm sorry, it'll be your yeah, I guess it would be the mantle, or I'm sorry, bearing block. In this case, for my bearing block, I'm using a shot glass. It's just a glass shot glass. I wrapped it in tape so if it does break, it doesn't shatter and explode in my hand. So you gotta be careful with that. But glass on wood makes really good low friction. That's obviously not a natural material, but neither is paracord. There's a lot of things you can use for this, including wood. So this just makes it a lot easier. If you're starting out, you may want to use something like that. You can even use skateboard wheels with ball bearings, or bearings I should say, and that works too. Bottle cap, all kinds of things. I took a rasp to kind of smooth out both ends. You can also do that to rough up the tip, because you don't want this smooth, shiny, slick surface. You want it to be kind of rough, so there's more friction. It gets that way once you've done a few fires. But back to our tip here. It's kind of flat on the end. I just cut the end off, so it's got it comes to a point, but it's not super pointed. Everything else should be pretty symmetrical, centered, and pointed. The end that actually meets into our hearthboard is basically almost flat starting out, with just a slight roundness. So you kind of want to start to like point the stick, to shave the stick to a point, but don't even go anywhere close to all the way. And then just give yourself a nice round yet flat tip. Okay, it's a real subtle roundness. And then in the middle, you don't want this smooth and round. You want it to have planed edges, almost like basically like an octagon shape. This one probably has about 10 flat sides, but you want to have subtle little like corners going around. That'll allow your paracord to bite into it more. If it's real round, your paracord's going to slip. The bow drill's not going to get as good of rotation. It's going to like go and then stop and then go and then go a little. It's going to slip. So make sure that you don't get all crazy into making this smooth and perfectly symmetrical, because it's okay if it's really rough. Conversely, you want it to be somewhat smooth in the sense that you don't want your cord to be chafing and getting worn raw on that. So you don't want to leave the bark on. You don't want it to be just like a square cut, because it still needs to be round in some respects. And it's really just the whole thing about a bow drill is finding that happy medium between too little and too much. So it's one of those things where you'll have to play with it and find out what's going to work best for you. Okay, the next thing is going to be our tinder bundle. Now this I found right next to the cottonwood. It's actually cottonwood inner bark. And I didn't even really have to process it. I just collected it. It had already separated itself during a flood. And it was kind of washed up against some sticks, so I just pulled it up and collected it. So one thing you can do here, I mean, to be honest, you can just take that, push it down the center, and that's probably going to work. If you want to rough it up a little bit, process it down, all this shake is going to fall down. So you make your bird nest, and then you take that shake and you put it back in the center of your nest. That gives you a finer amount of material to put your amber in, so it's going to be more likely to take. A lot of times people have this huge bundle like this. It's a little bit overkill, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's going to give you more flames. It's going to last longer. You're not going to burn your hands if you're holding this, but you can just hold it by the edges and generally you'll be okay. Alright, so now we're going to actually go down to trying to get this started. I am doing this on my patio, but it's not really a fire hazard. Okay, so we don't need that right here. We'll need our hearth board, and it really almost doesn't hurt to leave a little bit of that shake there. Okay. Now on the bow, you take your pointed end down through the middle, just as if you're right-handed. Cross over like that. Point it up. You actually want it about 2/3 of the way down, probably, or in the middle. You don't want it too high. So like that. And then you also want it on the outside of the bow, which I'm not sure how much it matters if it's on the outside or inside, but outside seems to work pretty good. Okay. We'll start off on our new divot. And like I said, we're going to use that shot glass. I just kind of hold it like this. And you can push down pretty hard if I need to. And then hold this part of the bow like that. And you can pull in with your finger to tighten that up. Okay? Put your foot as close to the divot as possible, almost touching it, but not touching it. See how I have my hand on my knee? Okay. And then starting out, we're just gonna get it going. Not a lot of pressure. We're just wearing our hole here. Okay? See, it slipped a little there. We're just gonna kind of work it fast, focusing on speed right now, keeping our drill parallel to the ground, and then we start getting it going faster. More pressure, more speed, more pressure, more speed, more pressure, more speed. Slipping. More tension on the rope. More downward pressure and speed. All of it. Tension, speed, and pressure. give it everything we have. Last 10 seconds. Okay. Now we're just relaxed now. Okay. Not a big deal. Give it a little air. If it's smoking on its own, it's going. You can see the ember. Sprinkle a little shake on top of that. So there it is. Fires in apartments are bad, so we put that in there. Okay, so it's pretty much that easy, guys. I mean, that was maybe 30 seconds of bow drilling. This is what it looks like after. You've got all that dust built around the edge. And you can even tap that in on top of your ember if you need more dust for it to burn. But it doesn't take much. And if you have the right wood for your hearth board, your spindle, that's like 50% of the battle. And then you need to make sure that it's constructed right, your spindle is right, your bow is right, and your string is right. And then the rest of it's just technique. So let me know if you have any questions about this or any comments. I appreciate the views. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.